Welcome to the First Things First podcast. And first things first, we need you to subscribe and leave comments letting us know what you think of the show. We're listening. I'm Nick Wright, joined by two of my favorite people, Jenna Wolf, Chris Carter. Now, let's get the show started.
Hey guys, and welcome to First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolf. That is the Hall of Famer Chris Carter, yes?
Yes, all day.
All day, every day.
For thousands of years to come.
This, America, is one of the happiest men alive.
I would have gone
morning.
with smartest, but happy works as well.
I went with happy because that's what
Thank
makes
you.
me happy, Nick. Your happiness makes me happy.
Jenna, when was I going to be worried about the Cavs?
The day after the trade deadline, if no moves were made.
What happened yesterday, America?
Moves were made.
Oh, okay. Let me
Look,
just
he
sip my
looks
tea.
good. He's going to sip his tea.
You're like Cardi B. You're making those money moves.
The proverbial dramatic sip.
I will take that, sir.
Everybody's in a great mood
Ain't
today.
got to dance no more. Sorry, didn't mean to
That
make
was
you
a
set
reference
out.
that I don't know. That's
Cardi
awesome.
B, don't worry about it. Let's do the television show.
Let's
No,
do
that's
the
not going to be on a
television show.
teleprompter.
Okay. No, it's not. No, not what you're talking about. Hey, there would be no big moves for the Cavs, they said. It would be tough to make a blockbuster deal, they said. You can't wear a high ponytail, they said. Well, guess what? Some people said that. The Cavs responded, and now the Cavs look a lot different than they did yesterday at this time. They sent out 6 players and a first-round pick, including Isaiah Thomas and Dwayne Wade coming back, Larry Nance Jr., Jordan Clarkson, George Hill, and Rodney Hood. And all we can wonder is, what does this mean for the future of LeBron and the Cleveland Cavaliers? General Manager Kobe Altman, who many said he was in over his head with all this, describes his thought process making these deals.
We were really worried that we were going to march. We were marching a slow death. We didn't want to be a part of that. I think we're going to get rejuvenated LeBron James, and that's the key. He's the guy that is going to take us back to the promised land.
All right, so the biggest part of all this is the one thing they didn't want to give up was the
Brooklyn pick.
And they managed to do all this without giving up the Brooklyn pick. So, CC, I will start with you. You heard what Kobe said there. They were not going in a great direction, but they somehow turned it all around. How important were these trade deals for LeBron James and the Cavs?
Well, they were very important to critical, for LeBron and his life in Cleveland. The first thing was that a little bit after 12, Nick, you and I were talking, and we got the first deal, Isaiah Thomas. But part of the first deal was that they had traded the first-round pick, which also let you know that they were potentially going to make other moves, but they couldn't trade the Brooklyn pick. Once you trade that first-rounder, as far as the NBA and what the rules are, you can't trade your other first-round pick. So it really kind of let them, man, they're going to have the Brooklyn pick. Now, what other assets are they going to be able to add?
Right.
They added some younger players. They also added more money to their salary cap. So they won't be in the same situation that they were in before when LeBron left. They would have competent NBA players who had a couple years left on their deals. So they would have the option of LeBron, if this works, they would have the option to be able to keep LeBron next year. If it doesn't work, they still have the Brooklyn pick, and they still would have some flexibility, even though they would have some luxury tax.
A lot of luxury tax.
Luxury tax implications from this deal. But it also showed you that the Cavs and their ownership, Kobe, the general manager, that they're trying to win. Yeah. And more importantly, they're trying to keep LeBron James in Cleveland. So they started off yesterday where LeBron James was definitely leaving Cleveland. And with the moves with the Los Angeles, now he's got 2 more teams that he can potentially go to. We talked about Houston, San Antonio as potential landing spots. The Lakers have also cleared enough room that they could sign LeBron and another max player. And as Nick always indicated, the chance of him staying in Cleveland, the probability went way, way up with all the moves.
Because we said that was predicated on whether they would win or not.
Listen, I reject the idea that LeBron was definitely leaving prior to the trade deadline. But it was certainly trending that way. So what does this mean for the Cavs? As far as the Eastern Conference playoffs go, I don't think it means much. They were going back to the finals, in my eyes, on the strength of LeBron James either way. But what it means to their ability to compete in those finals, it means the world. They would have been drawing nearly dead against Golden State.
And they had a
Houston.
great potential to not get to the finals, Nick. I mean, with the way they were playing basketball, we just can't assume that they were going to be able to fix this because yes, LeBron has been the constant. But we had never seen the type of basketball around LeBron, especially into February, that could jeopardize his run at consistent finals.
Listen, I know everyone was worried about that but me, and that's a hypothetical now. We'll never know.
That's not true, though, Nick. You were concerned, too.
I was concerned about their ability to compete in the championship round. I was not concerned about Boston or Toronto or Milwaukee beating them.
Were you concerned about LeBron playing with potentially a second or third best player, Isaiah Thomas?
Well, I thought by the time the playoffs came around that Isaiah Thomas would, if he was playing the way he was that we had seen, he would be out of the rotation. Now he's off the team, so it doesn't matter. So we can stay in the here and now for what this means. This Cavs team just got exponentially better defensively by, forget who they added, by who they subtracted. Isaiah Thomas was the worst defensive player, according to advanced metrics, in 25 years in the NBA. Derrick Rose, that is addition by subtraction. You talk about Jay Crowder. That's addition by subtraction as far as mopey in the locker room. I told you guys a few weeks ago.
There were 3 players that had to go.
Had to go.
IT, Crowder, and Derrick Rose. They all had to go. And you could see in the celebration from 2 nights ago, Derrick Rose celebration was totally different. IT celebration was
100%.
totally different than the rest of the players.
So the team got better by just extracting those guys. I told you guys a few weeks ago, and there are some times that I'm speculating on things. There are sometimes I have some actual insight. The Cavs are a team I have reason to have actual insight about. The LeBron James is stat hunting. That was believed to be from Jay Crowder. He needed to get out of that locker room. They did that. So the added bonus is, they bring in the league's leader in three-point shooting in George Hill. They bring in an athletic guard in Rodney Hood, who's averaging 17 points per game this year. They bring in another athletic big in Larry Nance Jr., who we'll see if his daddy, Larry Nance Sr., will let him wear his retired number 22. The Cavs have retired his dad's number, might let his son wear it. And then as an added bonus, a backup point guard in Jordan Clarkson.
Who, by the way, all younger. All younger.
Oh, listen, 25, 25, 25, and 31 in George Hill.
Jenna, you're going to be surprised. All of them can shoot except one.
Mm-hmm. So these are basketball players who can shoot the basketball?
Yes, but the Nance trade, being part of the trade, is a big deal, too, because now they have another defensive big. All right, with Kevin Love being out, Tristan not playing the defense, if they decide to go small, they can put Nance at the 5, and they can still build a guard team, especially teams that go small like Golden State.
And Nance has been playing the style Tristan was playing to get his contract.
And what kind of style was that?
All the little things, all effort, never worried about his own.
Don't have to call play for him.
Of course not. Can go catch some oops. Now he's more athletic than Tristan. He's a little shorter than Tristan. But a guy that we will see in the next 2 weeks, sometime on this show during our Butt First segment when we typically show dunks, some crazy alley-oop from LeBron to Nance. So the team got 2 true knockdown shooters. One in Rodney Hood, one in George Hill. Some athleticism in Larry Nance, and I would say a good upside backup point guard in Jordan Clarkson. And they got the players they lost. Shump wasn't playing. Crowder, IT, and Rose were negatives. D-Wade will be missed, but they gave D-Wade the choice. You're going to have your minutes cut because we got these guys, or we can send you to Miami. And Channing wasn't playing well. Channing was good in the locker room. One of the reasons they then brought in Kendrick Perkins to fit that locker room role. This is, by all measures, a home run for the Cavs. And I don't know. Maybe they didn't want to give up that first-round pick. You'll deal with giving up your own first-round pick, especially because you still have the Brooklyn pick.
I think the Cleveland Cavaliers approached the trade deadline wanting to answer 2 questions. One, what could they do to win the East, or at least what could they do to win, and what could they do to keep LeBron James? I mean, those are the 2 key questions they needed answered. Do you guys feel like they answered both of those questions in some capacity?
They really did, because they took an honest look at themselves and realized that even though Nick wasn't afraid, they were not a good basketball team. And if you're not a good basketball team and you can't compete for championships, LeBron is definitely going to leave. He wouldn't have any other choice. Now you've made it very, very difficult because through Daniel Gilbert and the general manager, Kobe, you can see that they made the right move so they can be competitive, and also that they could add LeBron to a max contract and still be competitive into the future.
And the other thing is that one added bonus they get from this, it's the biggest acquisition any team has made at the trade deadline in the last 5 years in the NBA, maybe longer. They got a reinvigorated LeBron James.
Yeah.
What they added to their team today is the best player in the world locked back in.
Re-engaged.
Re-engaged. We saw what a re-engaged LeBron looked the day before the trade deadline. Now, the downside is this. You got 4 new players. They're all rotation players. You only have 30-some-odd games left. Kevin Love is only going to be able to play with these guys for a half dozen or so games before the playoffs. There should be some stops and starts. But they only play 3 times in the next 13 days, CC. A team that doesn't practice a lot is going to have the opportunity to get some practice, to have some guys come in there. And when the offense is essentially LeBron James runs the show, guys can fit into that if they can hit shots.
LeBron needs to fly them all out to the All-Star game because the All-Star break is extended now. Have them do some practice, some walkthroughs and everything in Los Angeles. Go take advantage of the time, get acclimated, make a run after the All-Star
They can
break.
stay in one of his 2 $20 million homes in Los Angeles,
Yes,
the Brentwood one, or the Bel Air one. Which one? Not sure.
The Chris Carter mode of getting people together to train. Come out to me.
Yeah.
I will train you. Now you go back, and then let's go win.
Yeah, we can enjoy the All-Star break, get ready to try to make a dash
We
for the
had
championship.
Nick and I doing suicides for like 8 straight hours before we started the show. It is official. The Boston Celtics were the winners in the Kyrie Irving, Isaiah Thomas trade last year.
true.
I think we can all agree on that at this
I fold
point.
my hand.
Wait. Isaiah Thomas, who less than 24 hours after saying, quote, "I'm tired of being traded," was traded to the Lakers. Isaiah Thomas, who, as we saw in Cleveland, has no problem making his opinion known, reportedly would rather be bought out as opposed to coming off the bench with the Lakers. Isaiah Thomas apparently blind to his recent stats and perhaps deaf to his recent comments. Nick Wright, will going to the Lakers be good or bad for Isaiah Thomas?
Nothing can be worse than what he was going through in Cleveland. So in that regard, I think it's good. I also think the fact that I know Lonzo's going to be the starter. They can play at the same time, though. Lonzo's bigger. Lonzo can guard shooting guards. Isaiah's not guarding anybody anyway. I don't think it's bad for him to go to a team where when he's on the court, he can be more ball dominant, and a team that, if they whiff on their major free agents this upcoming season, might give Isaiah Thomas, similar to what J.J. Redick got in Philadelphia, a 1-year giant balloon payment so you're not tied to long-term salary things, to see if he gets healthier. Now, how is Isaiah Thomas going to deal with, this is his 4th team in the last 4.5 years, how is Isaiah Thomas going to deal with the emotional trauma of, remember when he was asked about, when he was still a Celtic, his pending free agency, and he said, oh, they're going to have to back up the Brinks truck. Well, that Brinks truck got robbed, and when it's showing up to your house, there's not a lot of money left.
It's now a Fiat.
Yeah, I mean, how is he going to deal with that? And not to, speak the name that shall not be spoken, but Isaiah Thomas, LeVar Ball, collision course. How he is going to deal with that when he plays the same position as Lonzo. None of this is ideal for Isaiah. None of the last few months has been ideal for Isaiah. And he has done some of that has been self-inflicted. Some of that was totally beyond his control. But now he gets something of a fresh start for the last 30 games.
Right. It's hard to imagine that things could get worse, but things just got worse for him.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, things just got a lot worse. Because now you talked about, okay, what could be worse for him? What if he got hurt again? We haven't seen him healthy. That 29 he got in Boston is in a distant future. All right? He is trying to get, in his distant past, he is trying to get paid. Forget about playing for a winner and everything. Isaiah, man, wants to get paid. He's never gotten paid in his NBA career, substantially a long-term security contract. Also, man, he should have got traded to the East because, Jenna, you and I were sitting here discussing it. There's some names in the West that I'm concerned about him facing.
He's got to play basketball in the West. He has to guard against guys like Damian Lillard and Russell Westbrook and Steph Curry and all of these guys that are so much harder than who he was guarding when he wasn't really guarding in the East with Cleveland.
Another one, James Harden and Chris Paul. So you can't hide him when you play the best teams. He can't guard Steph. He can't guard Clay. So he might be able to play, and him having his agent text yesterday the jump during the show.
Rachel Nichols, all caps. Isaiah will not be coming off the bench.
You stop making demands. Like, what about fitting in somewhere? Like, what about being a good teammate? What about, hey, Magic Johnson, you know something? Hey, whatever you need me to do, I can do. Because Magic's going to be pissed off when he sees Isaiah Thomas is not his childhood friend, Isaiah Thomas.
Right, he's like, oh, this one?
Yeah, and he's got a 5'8" guy coming into the locker room. So I believe this is going to be a rough season for Isaiah. If I was him, I would just go on the DL, just not making any comments, trying to fit into the scheme in Los Angeles, because Los Angeles, they do have a plan for the future, and I don't believe Isaiah's part of that.
It is very difficult for people that have been incredibly successful in their lives, once they're grown-ups, grown men, grown women, whatever, to change significant pieces of their personality. Isaiah's bristly, me against the world nature is the only reason a 5'8" guy can be in the NBA and ever play at a high level. That chip on his shoulder is never going away. That chip on his shoulder, though, is only palatable when he's playing well. Instead, he's still hurt, and he's got the money hanging over him, and what he feels like is a betrayal from Boston. All those things work against him in what could end up being a sad story. Like, at this point, now he's off the Cavs, I'm rooting for Isaiah. I hope Isaiah turns the whole thing around. Wasn't working with him in the Cavs. The Cavs made the right move. I hope he turns it around, but his body right now has not allowed him to.
Just like Isaiah, I need you as an adult to make some grown-up modifications to your personality.
Me?
You.
No.
Meanwhile, he's been there for 5 minutes. He's already made a point. Coming up, will the new pieces help the Cavs keep LeBron? We'll dive into that, break it down next. First things first.
I know.
Welcome back to First Things First. Former NBA General Manager Billy King joins us. Billy, I just found out, spent a good part of the other day with 700,000 other Philadelphia Eagles fans at the parade.
I did. I was down there Sunday night for the celebration, and I was down there yesterday.
That's awesome.
So,
congrats.
I was happy for them. Have
people in the city sort of come down at all, or are you still sort of in that euphoric? No, it's going to be a good year.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time with Howie Roseman, and I'm happy for him.
Yeah.
Really happy for him, because he was demoted, got his job back, and now won a Super Bowl.
Man, what about the way Kelsey tells the story? Because that actually happened to him with Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly won the power struggle. The owner gave it to him. They put Howie on the other side of the building.
He said, I didn't see him for 2 years.
And when he came out of there, man, he was breathing. But also Howie, he went to European soccer, San Antonio Spurs.
He did a lot of studying.
He went to all these studying and see how organizations were run and everything. And, man, to come out and for that to be part of the storyline with you being a former general manager, I mean, like,
That's
absolutely.
Awesome. I'm happy for guys like that.
Yeah, you need to go in the closet, and next time you come out with man, firing on people.
Well, that's why I spend time with guys like Howie.
Absolutely.
All right, let's talk some basketball, Billy. Cavs GM Kobe Allman had a few more things on his to-do list than, say, God yesterday. He was tasked with saving the team, keeping LeBron, winning the title, and then making everyone in Cleveland happy. The only thing missing was world peace. Cavs, big busy yesterday. They sent off 6 players and a first-round pick, including Isaiah Thomas and Dwayne Wade, coming back, Larry Nance Jr., Jordan Clarkson, George Hill, and Rodney Hood. And they still saved that coveted Nets pick, which no one thought was possible. So, Billy, I'll start with you. What does this do for the Cavs' chances now, say, of coming out of the East, and then let's go move forward and say winning the title?
It gives them energy. You know, George Hill's coming in with energy. He was in Sacramento not winning, not happy. Now he comes in with energy. Larry Nance Jr., Jordan Clarkson, they come in with energy. They're excited. They were losing in L.A., not going to make the playoffs. Now you kind of play with one of the greatest players, LeBron James. So they got a lot of young legs now. They had players that were trying to play defense, but they just couldn't do it physically. Yeah. Now they bring in young guys that can run around. And George Hill and Jordan Clarkson, they play the role of setup. They spot up, and LeBron can handle the basketball. They're better fit. Cleveland had a lot of guys that had to have the basketball. Derrick Rose, Isaiah Thomas, they needed the ball. These guys don't need the ball, so I think it's a great fit, and they got some young legs.
The fit part and the needing the basketball is so key. George Hill leads the NBA in three-point percentage, near the top of the NBA in spot-up shooting percentage. Now,
and can defend.
And
it's
certainly which is a foreign concept to the Cleveland Cavaliers
I mean, because,
this year.
we got Kyle Korver. I mean, he is as good as shooting the ball, but he got problems guarding people. So how they fit together as a unit, I think, is more important than just the names of the players.
And I want to be candid with the audience here on George Hill. His three-point percentage is a little inflated this year because he seemed to be maybe passing up shots he shouldn't have been to make sure he can stay as the league's top three-point shooter. But he's been a 40% shooter the last 3 years of his career. So 45 might be a little high, but a 40% three-point shooter. Rodney Hood, a 40% three-point shooter this year. More young legs. And the Cavs' biggest issue, in addition to how bad they were as a team defensively, is offensively. They had the least efficient backcourt in the NBA all year. So you add George Hill, Rodney Hood, and Jordan Clarkson coming off the bench, not to mention Larry Nance, who can do what they paid Tristan Thompson to do, energy, rebounding, defense, and you gave up zero production.
Yeah. Well, the thing about I like Larry Nance Jr. because of the fact he gives them energy and toughness inside. Channing Frye was a guy who was going to spot up, but he wasn't going to go in there and bang.
Yes.
Now you have Larry Nance Jr. You can throw him in there. Now he'll bang with guys. He'll give them energy. They'll get extra offensive rebounds with him, extra points with him, just getting rid of those rebounds.
Billy, I would say one of the biggest issues that this team have, aside from offensive and defensive, was chemistry. These players couldn't find a way to gel and make it work, whether it went through LeBron or it didn't. Now you have all these new players, and I'm wondering, what's the time looking like for these players to get going? They only have a couple games in like a 13-day stretch or whatnot, so they do have a little bit of time to get. But where do you see is their time frame to find some chemistry?
That's the hardest thing is now with these 30 games to play. But the greatest thing having LeBron because he's going to handle the basketball. He's going to direct guys, tell them where to spot up. It's not like they run an intricate offense where the guy's got his back cuts and so it's going to be more spacing out. And these are pros. I mean, it's almost like going to pick up basketball. I understand get in space where LeBron can find you and he'll get you the ball because he's going to drive and penetrate for those guys. So I do think they had time. I remember we made the trade from Mutombo in 2001 in Philly. After that, we had a losing record the rest of the year. Even though we did get to the finals, we had a losing record with Mutombo. Because it's hard to blend them in and get in because you don't have that practice time.
Right, and Mutombo, trying to fit him into a system is a lot different than the other players. Cleveland, when they were most successful this season, LeBron had the basketball. Yeah. That stretch where they went through, they were 19 out of 21, that LeBron was the point guard. Now, if you look at the trades, when you look at the players and the type of players, they can play that style. But what also this trade gives them, they can play like Ty Lue. One of the problems he had with Kyrie Irving was Kyrie's inability or wanting to push the basketball. They were too old, too. Once they got rid of Kyrie, they were an old basketball team. So they can't run. They can't play transition offense on a regular basis, also because their rebounding was not very good. Now with the young legs that they've added, people like Nance, Hood, and George Hill, these guys can get out into the break. And LeBron is one of the best transition players in NBA history. So not only have they got better spot-up shooters, not only they got better chemistry, but now they can play at a different pace that they didn't have before.
And the advanced stats back up, Chris. George Hill and Rodney Hood, despite the fact that they are on different teams, two of the most efficient players in transition in the NBA this year. The Cavs are trying, by the way, the Cavs during this terrible stretch of basketball have been playing at the third fastest pace in the league. They've been playing that style with guys who can't do it.
Yes.
Now, as far as the chemistry goes, here's why it's a little different than what they were trying to do at the beginning of this year. This year, they were trying to fit in players who, in their career, had been the best players on their team. Hey, Derrick Rose, we want you to fit in.
Wow.
You've been an MVP. Guess what? You're the 9th best player on the team.
Be a role player.
Isaiah Thomas, when you come back, come fit in. You were 5th in MVP voting last year. You're the 3rd or 4th best guy.
And Dwayne Wade. We did not need Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade's a great teammate, but we did not need Dwayne Wade to be LeBron's best friend.
No.
Because we needed LeBron to open up to the other players, and when LeBron had Dwayne Wade, he could use him on the side and only communicate to D-Wade.
So George Hill is back in the role he was at when he was at his best last year in Utah, where
Or
he's
in Indiana.
or
Yes,
Indiana as
with
well.
Paul George as a sidekick.
Secondary option to Paul George, secondary option to Gordon Hayward. Rodney Hood, where he's been in Utah this year. Now, he's one of their better players because Gordon Hayward left because of the injuries, but where he's thrived. These guys aren't used to having teams run offenses around them. So that part of the transition will be better. And let's not forget, one of Jenna's big points throughout the year, Kevin Love's been at his best when he was their secondary option. Guess what? He gets to be, when he comes back, their secondary option once again.
Because all these guys are willing to just fit in and be a piece of the puzzle rather than be a big piece. And that's what I like about all these guys. They're going to come in and just say, where do you want me to do? I just want to win. I don't care about how many shots I get. Isaiah was about getting a contract and getting shots. And unfortunately, he's not going to L.A. and now he doesn't want to come off the bench. So, good luck to him.
Really quickly,
situation.
did the Cavs suddenly become the favorites in the East?
I think I never had him out there because I think on the show I said I'd never count LeBron out. I think when you get, but I think when you get in the playoffs, I still love Toronto. I just think they've got the experience and they got younger, so I do like them. I'm not discounting Boston, but I do like Toronto's experience and their depth. I just can't bet against LeBron.
If it clicks right for them,
yes.
hold on, I'm going to follow up with one more. If it clicks right for them, do they have a better chance in the finals this year than they did last year?
Yes, hands down.
Okay.
Because I think they're much more athletic, and I think they're much more cohesive than they were last year in the finals.
Billy, thank you so
Billy.
much for
Good to
hanging
see
out
you.
with us.
Absolutely.
Always love having you here.
Don't be winking at me.
Is that the answer you want?
Making
Coming
money
up is the
moves.
drama
is that
just
the answer
getting
you want?
started in New England. Next on First Things First. Tom Brady's former backup, who played less than 2 full games in 3.5 years in New England, became the proverbial man last night. Jimmy Garoppolo just became the highest paid player in NFL history when the 49ers signed him to a 5-year, $137.5 million deal, $74 million of it guaranteed. Jimmy G was traded to the Niners last season. He went 5-0, the longest active regular season winning streak in the NFL. How can you quantify his excitement? Check out his Instagram. This pretty much says it all.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's as understated as you can get. But CC, have you seen enough from Jimmy G to warrant a deal like this?
Well, this is the normal operating mode of doing business. Once they made the trade for Jimmy G, I told Nick he didn't need to play. He was going to get what we would think to be a max deal. I thought that he would be in the top 3 highest paid quarterbacks. You just have to be careful when guys get contracts like this that we just think it's ginormous. We don't know what the guarantees are because you can stack the money where it be a more cap friendly if he doesn't have the guarantees that some of the other guys. But I'm not surprised. Kirk Cousins he's been franchised the last 2 years at a number just below this number. So I'm not shocked at all. People were shocked with Matthew Stafford's contract, but what this will do is it will have an effect on the other quarterbacks in the league that are up for contracts. People like Drew Brees, Kirk Cousins, and others.
It's going to have an effect on quarterbacks who aren't up for contracts. You think Aaron Rodgers sees this?
Aaron said that Aaron knows his contract is coming. Also, Matty Ice, he's got 1 year left on his contract. So, and also, Tom Brady potentially could be involved in that. So it will have an effect on people looking for new deals and those whose contractors are up.
Do you remember when Jimmy G got traded to San Francisco? And I believe they were starting a gentleman named C.J. Beathard at quarterback. And Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch were like, listen, we're not rushing Jimmy in. It's a complicated offense. We don't need him to play just yet. We'll see. I had the wild, crazy take. I'll tell you what John Lynch doesn't want is Jimmy G to get on the field and look like as good as they hope he actually is. What happened? C.J. Beathard got hurt at the end of the game against Seattle, a game where their offense had done nothing, a game where they were about to drop to 1-10 on the year. And Jimmy G came in, instantly threw a touchdown pass, seemed to energize the team, started the next week, and they haven't lost since. That was great for momentum going into the offseason. That was great for confidence. Might be great for their ability to attract free agents to San Francisco.
What, wasn't it great?
It was not great for their cap sheet. Cece, you said he was going to get paid no matter what.
No matter what.
Right. And you said you thought he could get 5 years, $125. I thought that was a little high. He got 5 years, 138.
Yeah, that's not, I mean, it's still in the same ballpark. I thought that he would get this contract. Now, I knew that he wouldn't get the guarantees that we have seen from some of the others, and that is the unproven part. Once you trade for Jimmy G from New England, you have to pay him. There is no other equation where he's not going to get paid. I don't care if he didn't play. I don't care if he played and went undefeated. Because they traded for him, the confidence that they had in trading for him knew that they were going to compensate him at this level.
But we do know he got the most guaranteed money of any quarterback ever. $74 million. We don't know how it's structured.
Yes.
We don't know how they're doling it out. We also know he got the highest average annual salary of any player ever.
Yeah, so did Matt Stafford. So did the guy before him.
So
like,
Matt
this
Stafford,
is the way
Derek Carr. Right. I understand. But
yeah, they weren't the best either.
But the idea that once they traded for him, he was instantly going. And I'm not saying he won't be worth it. He looked awesome. But the idea that he was instantly not going to become one of the highest paid players in the league, but the highest paid player, like that, I know not much surprises you, but that's...
Yeah, but it's not, don't get stuck on he's the highest paid, all right? He's the latest guy who did a contract. The way we used, before we had the Ricky Wade scale, we used to draft a guy, number 1 or 2, this guy becomes the highest paid. We didn't care then. Like, don't get caught up in the highest paid. I can guarantee you 6 months from now, he won't be the highest paid.
No, I agree. That will be true. Once Kirk Cousins might beat it, if someone else renegotiates, they might. Would
he have been offered the same deal had he not played one game for the Niners last season?
I had him at least $25 million.
Even if he didn't play at all?
Even if he did not play one game. The franchise tag is $23 million. They could franchise him or sign him to a long-term deal. So, no, I knew this. They had to pay him.
Well, that is what's curious to me is, and I'm not saying it's the wrong move. And John Lynch clearly, listen, he's got a 6-year deal, or I guess 5 years left. Kyle Shanahan's got 5 years left. Jimmy G now has 5 years left. They're all aligned perfectly. But when typically the reason you don't want to franchise a quarterback is because it sets you up for the Kirk Cousins thing. Franchise him once, then if you franchise him twice, then if you franchise him third time, you're looking at $100 million over 3 years. Well, he's looking at essentially $100 million over 3 years on this deal. For him to get not only this deal, but to get it this quickly, I am surprised. Maybe I shouldn't have been. I thought 5 years, $115 million, which would slot him as the 4th highest paid player ever, seemed about right for a guy who going into this season had thrown 96 passes.
The economics in the NFL are strong. And this contract represents labor peace and also new deals. We saw how much Fox paid for the Thursday night package, all right? NBA revenue getting ready to go down. NFL, people talking about it ain't popular, but the revenue and the business model is very, very strong. We are going to see at least 5 quarterbacks with $115 to $130 million contracts in the next 6 months. So this is the new normal, as my man Doug Peterson says there in Philadelphia.
How much of this is based on the beautiful cloud that it was sat behind Tom Brady, and how much is based on what you actually saw him play?
I think
his potential
Chris is right that once they traded for him, they were never going to trade for him and not give him a contract. I think his performance in those 5 games changed this from 5 years around 120, what you had said you thought it would be, to 5 years around 140. So I think maybe he got goosed an extra $3 to $4 million a year based on and in fact they went 5-0 and he played well in those 5 games.
Also, some drama in New England. Tom Brady's former backup, who played less than 2 full games in 3.5 years in New England, became the proverbial man last night. Jimmy Garoppolo just became the highest paid player in the NFL when the 49ers signed him to a 5-year, $138 million deal, $74 million guaranteed. Now, reports say Brady is prepared to skip OTAs unless he receives a deal similar to what Garoppolo got from the 49ers. The report also details Brady insisting Josh McDaniels remain with the team as the coach in waiting. A lot to digest there. CeCe, what's your reaction to all of that?
Man, this is nice and juicy because Tom Brady, for so long, I mean, people didn't know. But people just thought, man, Tom Brady, man, he's just going to go about it, just do everything the right way. Tom Brady getting a little spicy here at the end.
Yeah.
People trying to push him out the door. Oh, no. And I knew there was something to him starting a little over a year ago that I wanted to play till I'm 45. And this was like he's 38, 39. It's like, I want to play till I'm 45. I mean, like that's like George Blanda type material. Like, how is this going to happen? But he continued with the momentum. Then he started giving us a sneak peek inside of his life. Tom versus time. Then the dispute with his trainer with New England. As far as, is he going to work at the building, access to the other players? Then some of the Garoppolo stuff came out with Kraft and them kind of forcing Garoppolo out. Tom Brady seemed pretty normal to me. He seemed like a normal NFL player to me now because players watch those salaries. And seeing Jimmy Garoppolo go off and now become the highest paid quarterback with 7 starts. Tom Brady been to how many Super Bowls?
8.
8.
Been to 8.
I've been to 8 Super Bowls.
He's had started 7 games.
This guy started. And
by the way,
Garoppolo
is poised to not make more than Brady, to make double what Brady's going to make.
Give us the numbers.
Brady's supposed to make $14 million this year. Garoppolo's supposed to make 28.
But Brady's making $14 million because he did that to help the team.
He took a team-friendly deal. Now, hold on, Cece, you mentioned Brady's talking about, I want to play till I'm 45. One thing I want to remind the audience, while Brady's only been publicly saying that for a year, do you remember, right after Deflategate, the NFL got his phone. They got his text messages. The phone was destroyed, but they ended with his text messages. Some of those text messages got leaked. One of them was a text with he and a friend about Peyton Manning. To that friend, Brady said, yeah, but it's fine, when they were talking about the comparison.
Yes.
Peyton's only got a year or 2 left. I'm going to play another 7 or 8. So we knew that Brady, for a long time, had believed he was going to play till he was 45. But he wasn't telling us that. He wasn't publicly talking about that. It's just in the last year, he has started. So it's not like he had a late career epiphany. He's believed this for a long time. He just now let us in on it. Just like he just now let us in on his life. Been intensely private. All of a sudden, he's letting us
cameras in the car,
kiss his son, and hang out with his wife. The whole thing that we've never been a part of. And now he's also exerting some leverage. You learned when you went to Israel this summer with Robert Kraft that Robert Kraft, a man who has sons, successful sons, thinks of Tom Brady as one of those successful sons.
When he got off the phone with them, he said, "Goodbye, son. I love you."
Right.
Now, I'm just telling you, man, they are connected. And me talking to Tom, you could see the genuine appreciation for who Kraft is. Now, this is in the middle of June. There's no OTAs. There's no reason for them to even be connected, in the offseason unless they are very, very good friends. And I believe that to be genuine, and we're starting to see some of that in some of the decisions that New England is making, with them forcing Garoppolo out with the trade to San Francisco.
Yeah.
Josh McDaniels, you asked me, and I gave you the answer no one ever wants to give. You're like, Chris, what happened? I was like, I don't know. But now we're starting to see things of why it would make sense for Josh McDaniels. Man, if Tom Brady told me, and I'm working with Tom, if I think Tom can play another 3 to 5 years, and he tells me he wants me there, and Bill Belichick tells me he's going to open up the right side of his brain now all of a sudden because he's been talking out of his backside. Now he's going to open up his brain. And Kraft tells me that potentially that, transition plan, I can understand why Josh stayed now. Yeah. Like, I really can't. Man, if Tom Brady asked me to stay, man, I'm going to stay based on the relationship and also what he's given up. And I know the Krafts are going to reward, him being committed to that franchise.
It's really interesting because even when we started this show, we had the Patriots as the team that, and you probably know more than we did, but that was a well-oiled machine. All the drama was kept in-house. Nothing spilled out. There were no fractures at all. And now look where we are, where you have Tom Brady, who seemingly has everything he wants, threatening to sit out OTAs if he doesn't get paid, like a backup who has 7 career starts in his life.
And first of all, his threat, this is not OBJ saying I'm not going to be at the Giants OTAs. Tom Brady, man, the OTAs in the collective bargaining agreement.
Tom Brady Invitational.
Yeah, the collective bargaining agreement, the OTAs are not mandatory. But in New England, they are mandatory.
So it's a big deal.
It is a huge deal for him to decide if I'm going to miss those. That would be a huge message to the organization.
Hey, everybody, Nick Wright here, and thank you so much for listening to the First Things First podcast. But I wanted to tell you about another podcast at Fox Sports
that we are so excited about, and that is Alexi Lalas's State of the Union podcast. That's right, U.S. soccer legend Alexi Lalas will be partnering up with Fox soccer guru and researcher extraordinaire David Moss to review the top storylines in soccer across the globe. Each week, Alexi will give his State of the Union on American soccer as it rebuilds for the future. Subscribe and listen for free on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts right now. Now back to the show.
Back here on First Things First, one of the defining moments of Super Bowl 52, the Philly special, the trick the Eagles pulled off on 4th and 1 to give them a 10-point lead before halftime. I'm sure this is the first time you guys are all seeing this. And now the guy that threw the pass, Trey Burton, is here. Trey, thank you for joining us, and congratulations.
Thank you.
I think we're going to get the truth about that pass. I think there's something behind that.
Well, I think before last Sunday, if anyone that's ever driven through Philly would think a Philly special is like cheesesteak with onions and cheese whiz down on South Street somewhere.
Loaded cheesesteak.
Loaded cheesesteak, right, as was said with better and fewer words.
And now it's one of the greatest play calls in the history of the Super Bowl.
Yeah, so this is probably, again, first time that we're talking about this with you. Talk to us a little bit about the play, what went on. Were you nervous when they called it? Did you think you would ever actually use it in the game?
Yeah, we put it in for the Falcons, the first playoff game that we played. And just, week to week, if we were in the perfect situation for it, I felt like Coach would call it. And I was, elbowing them on the sideline during the Vikings game, trying to get it called. And we were up, so much that he didn't want to show it. And, when he called it, I remember just putting my head down, listening to the play, and Foles said, Philly special. And I, looked up, and I, wide-eyed, all right, let's do it. And, the rest is history.
Now, I love the fact that you've given us insight as far as what the play was. But now, when was the last pass you threw? Because I know you had some quarterbacking in your days.
I would say probably my freshman year in college.
Yeah, at the University of Florida. That's what I remember. I remember you being at Florida when they converted you to tight end. But I thought was really special about the play was, as a former quarterback, throwing the football is better without the glove. But you didn't want to give it away, so you left the gloves on, and you played with them the way you always play with your gloves. You never strap them down.
Never.
So even when you threw the pass, there was no way to give away the play. I was able to see that, because typically when you see that, a guy will take the glove off and tuck it in. And then you say, okay, in the film, you could see he didn't have a glove on. Yeah. When I saw you had both your gloves on, now the play is run. You saw that they took the fake.
Yeah.
You see Nick. There's 100 million people watching.
Yeah.
I saw the ball. It wasn't your best spiral.
Yeah.
Tell me how did you choke it a little bit? Come on.
It's not always the best spiral. It gets there where it needs to be, but it's not going to be the best spiral coming from me.
You just knew your wide receiver was wide open.
All I saw
Don't
was
miss
Foles.
him.
That's all I saw. I didn't see anybody else. I just threw it up there.
Cece's mentioning you not taking the glove off before the play, but for really smart, well-coached defensive players, sometimes they can see. We've heard guys talk about, I know if a receiver's getting the ball or if it's a run play based on their stance,
for sure.
like
100%.
the look in their eyes. When they call that play, are you instantly having to recheck yourself to make sure all your emotions and facial expressions, things like that pre-snap, are the same as any goal line play, or are you even thinking about that?
I wasn't really thinking about it. I was just thinking about catching the pitch from Clement and finding Foles. They told me that my first option was to run. But ain't no way I was running.
No, you pulled up. You pulled up. You pulled up
No
immediately.
shot.
But from a play call standpoint, because we know you and I talked about the Vikings game, and one of the disadvantages, the Vikings, they're one of the top defenses in the NFL the last 3 years. But coming into this game, you guys had totally changed your game plan. So the Vikings or Philadelphia, they were not ready for how aggressive you guys were going to play.
Yeah, and watching film, the 2 weeks that you have for the Super Bowl, man, the Patriots were really tough in the red zone and really tough on the goal line. I don't think they had a rushing touch, maybe one the whole season on them on the goal line. And so we knew we had to do something different. And, man, it was really cool.
What's the feeling because that happened seconds before halftime.
Yeah.
What's the feeling going to the locker room and in the locker room when you guys knew when you decided to go for it on 4th down, this thing could be 15-12.
Yeah.
Instead, it's 22-12. What are you guys talking about? What's the feeling in the locker room right after that play?
Well, the Super Bowl halftime is double a regular season halftime. So, there's a bunch of things, guys running around. We were really confident going into the game, honestly. We knew we had a really good shot, especially with the way Foles was playing and how good our defense is. We knew we had a shot, regardless of who we were playing. So I think we were energized. We were ready to rock and roll, and we got it done in the second half.
Talk to me about that confidence, because it's very easy to throw the masks on and to make it into sort of a gag thing, like, oh, we're underdogs and it's wonderful. But you are going up against this behemoth of a team that has so much history, against a quarterback who has so much history, coached by a guy who has so much history. So there's a lot there. You guys are a young team with a young coach and a very new quarterback to the playoff picture. Where did that confidence come from? And who did it stem from? I mean, did it come from Coach Peterson?
Yeah, I think it comes from up top always. You know, he's always telling us weekly, you're going to win this game. You know, don't think any other way. Envision playing well, making the big play. But then also the veteran leaders, you know, who we have, you know, guys like Chris Long and LeGarrette Blount, who played in the Super Bowl last year for New England. And just, you know, them sharing their experience, what it's like to play in the Super Bowl, just for guys like me who have never been in the playoffs, just to understand, you know, what it takes to get there. And it's just still a football game, you know, and we're a really good team, and offense and defense and special teams, you know, some of the best in the NFL.
Yeah, one thing your team did a great job was embracing material, bulletin board material.
Yeah.
Now, my colleagues here, I try to tell them all the time that guys read everything, they see everything. When you say something, they will use it as motivation. The underdog, man, a hungry dog runs faster. Mike Lombardi saying that Doug Peterson was the worst coaching hire of the previous season. Man, the players did not miss a beat. And my friend, my partner, Nick right here, unbeknownst to Jenna and I, we tried to tell her that the Eagles are only 2 games away from the Super Bowl. So it seems as if Jason Kelce and the rest of Philadelphia fans, they know about Nick Wright.
Yeah.
Can you kind of explain kind of inside the organization how you guys have used us, him, as motivation?
Can I get an apology first? That's first and foremost.
Listen,
that's all I want.
I issued
start
the
out before I say anything
apology.
else.
I issued the apology before you guys won the Super Bowl, when you guys beat the Vikings. Because I had said you guys were drawing dead on making the Super Bowl, let alone winning it.
No, excuse me.
So,
I did take him to the game. He was a guest, but the Philadelphia and their finest, they found him. And they let out a roar in our section.
As they should.
They started chanting, Nick Wright sucks. That's great. But so, you evidently, it's very odd, because the team did tweet out yesterday me being wrong about the Eagles.
Destroyed you.
Destroyed
you,
They destroyed me.
Yeah, for sure.
Badly.
But listen, bro, I love you, man. Like, I think you do a great job. I love watching you, and I think you're spot on. You usually don't go with the crowd. You usually have your own stats.
My man. Thank you, Mr. Burton. I appreciate that. And I apologize.
There's a big butt coming. I feel like there's a butt.
I was as wrong as you can be about anything.
Yeah.
I thought I made, I think, my national television debut saying, write it in stone, the Cavs are going to beat the Warriors in the finals. That was before last year's finals.
Yeah.
I didn't think I could ever be more wrong about anything. And then I somehow doubled down on that by saying the Eagles had the least shot of any NFC team making the Super Bowl, let alone winning it. I'm happy for you guys. Congratulations. And I give that apology with all due respect.
Thank you.
Now, how has the Super Bowl, winning the Super Bowl, changed your life?
Opportunities like this, you know, I wouldn't be on the show if it wasn't for the Philly special, and you know, it's just a really cool ride. The whole Super Bowl experience, the 2 weeks, you know, the week that you're there in Minnesota, you know, we're staying at the Mall of America, and there's a ton of events for my family, and just in a bunch of ways, you know, and I'm excited to, you know, use it for good and benefit, you know, especially my hometown.
We took a look at what yesterday was like, and Cece and I spent some time in Philadelphia. We know what it's like when there's crowded streets and it's hard to get around. There were 700,000 people that turned out for you guys. Tell me what it was like. We saw from the outside in. What was it like from the inside out?
I think there was a lot more than 700,000, but it was it was chaos. It was a blast, you know, something that will never happen again. And I'm extremely fortunate to be a part of the first, you know, world champion, Super Bowl championship to be brought to Philly. They deserve it.
Wait, you shared a story off air. Fans are rowdy in Philly. We already know that. Yeah. But people were throwing things at you. I'm sure it was like with you, not laughing at you, with you. Didn't one of your teammates get like hit in the face?
Yes, the way they had it set up, it was a double-decker bus. And, you know, the families were down underneath and the players were up top, you know, like waving and, you know, saying what's up to the fans. And, man, they were chucking beers. Like, I mean, from 100
Well, one of your teammates had sent out a tweet, a public service announcement. Hydration for the players. Make sure you throw them beers on the parade route.
Well, Lane Johnson said that he's going to give the whole city beers after we win the Super Bowl.
All right, so they're chucking them at you. What happened?
Dude got hit in his cheek and cut him open. He was leaking.
One of his players.
One of my players, yeah. One of the teammates got hit in the cheek and was leaking blood.
And he probably applauded.
Listen,
he was probably like, nice shot!
If that's the worst thing that happened in the parade, you probably got out okay. But it was wild, and I think we're gonna let you talk about that a little bit more. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we're going to sort of analyze the parade. We play a little game called Put a Grade on It, and where we're going to show you something, you give us a grade. It's how it works in school. Let's start with your coach, Doug Peterson. Peterson caught a beer from a fan during the parade. Trey, put a grade on your coach's hands. Watch it. Oh!
And look at the pause. He framed it. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So someone could take pictures.
A plus for sure.
A plus.
Very
That's
impressive.
13 years playing in the NFL.
at that, yeah.
You got to have some hands.
Left-handed too.
Oh,
Left-handed.
yeah, that's a
Nice.
good point.
Yeah.
Yep.
No gloves. Next, he gave it an A+. Pepper's asking me what the grade is. Oh, check out this outfit from Chris Long. Looking, would you call it patriotic? Trey, put a grade on this outfit.
I love it, man. I
Oh.
don't think there's anything else he could have added to the costume to make it any better. So I would definitely have to do A+.
That's a throwback Iverson jersey.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you're a little young, so I don't know how much Iverson you got to watch.
little bit.
But Chris is almost the exact same age as me, so we came up watching The Answer in Philly long term. Now the fur coat, I can't put a name on it. I don't know what he's emulating there. Maybe he's emulating Iverson.
A boss, a champion.
Oh,
A
okay.
two-time back-to-back. What you tell me? I
There
mean,
you go.
The list goes on.
Touche, sir.
Back to back.
Back to back.
After not being in the playoffs.
Yes.
Yeah. 9 years, no playoff appearances.
Grade.
2
What's
years.
the grade? What do you give
pimp.
it?
A plus.
A+.
Gonna be a lot of
Two
A+.
for two.
A lot of
Moving
them.
on. The star of the parade was hands down Jason Kelce. Great speech, great outfit, great all around. Trey, put a grade on Jason Kelce's parade performance. Could you hear everything from where you were standing?
Oh, for sure. I was like 4 or 5 people to his left. His speech, his costume, the way he was running and slapping
Trey Burton, they gave up on him as a quarterback. They moved him to tight end.
Did you feel snubbed?
No, I'm fine. I was good. A plus for sure.
Did you know he was this guy?
Yeah, well, I knew he was going to he said he was going to have a long speech, a lot longer than everybody else. I didn't know it was going to be 5 minutes. But, I mean, he's passionate, bro, just like the fans.
Was that in teleprompter or was that off the top of his
Off the top of his head. Impressive.
Because he's been known as the quiet Kelce brother. His brother Travis is in the news more, so you knew before the speech he had some flavor to him.
I think that's just because of the position Travis, plays compared to him. But he's definitely outspoken and a very emotional guy, and the fans loved it.
Oh, that was amazing. The outfit was an A+. The speech, the
You should have
delivery.
seen him. I'm catching beers from these fans, right? And next thing you know, I see Kelce on a police bicycle, slapping hands with the fans on the side. It was nuts, man. He's all over the place, running from bus to bus to bus, and just crazy.
All right, last
that's
one
awesome.
here. Before the parade, the Eagles team account tweeted out this, a quick throwback Thursday before we get on the parade bus with a clip from our own Nick Wright saying every team that makes the playoffs in the NFC has a better shot at making the Super Bowl than your number 1 seed, Philadelphia Eagles. Trey, put a grade on Nick's rant from earlier this year.
Man, that's horrible. F-, incomplete.
Nice.
Did
Kick
not
him out the
finish.
class.
Did not. You said incomplete.
Yeah.
Did not finish.
Hold him back. I mean,
You got an F-
I
and
have
an
to repeat the grade.
yes, repeat the
Okay.
grade.
All right, listen, I got to own it. I was wrong. I was wrong about the Philadelphia Eagles. I was not really thrilled to be wrong. That's a lie. I wish I was right, but I was wrong. I'm happy for you, though.
Thank you,
I don't know
man.
what I'm supposed to say here.
Appreciate that.
Trey, thank you so much.
thanks for
We
having me.
love that you won because you were able
Congratulations,
to have great
man.
opportunities like hanging out with
Thank
us. All the best to you this offseason. It's going to be a short one.
That watch new?
No.
This post-Super Bowl? Oh,
No.
pre-Super Bowl
I
watch.
got to get a post-Super Bowl one.
There you go.
That's what you have to
pass it
do.
throughout my kids.
I'm Jenna Wolf, and thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Make sure to subscribe and tell your friends, family, and coworkers about the podcast, which, by the way, is available on iTunes and all your favorite podcast apps. You can catch a fresh new episode every Monday through Friday on FS1, starting at 6:30 a.m. Eastern, 3:30 a.m. Pacific. So long, everyone.